What's wrong? She's got a fever. A spring fever, and the only prescription is more IOD. Seriously, you guys, I know we're not the only ones going crazy over all of the fun little plants you see when you go into the grocery store.
Spring fever.
Spring fever. And I wanted to do an herb planter in my kitchen window, but could not find one that I liked. The ones that I did find were beautiful, but they were way too expensive. So I decided to make my own. So the first thing you're going to want to do is gather your supplies. What we're using today is IOD Decor Mold in Queen Bee. And we are using the IOD air dry clay. We're going to be getting clay. And then some wood glue. We're using the Tight Bond Quick and Thick. If you are going to be doing your pot for outdoors, make sure you use a glue that is good for outdoor use.
And I would like to note that this actually isn't technically a wood glue, even though it works for wood, it is a multi-surface glue.
Did I say wood glue?
You did.
I do apologize.
Don't let it happen again.
Also, a chip brush. We'll show you why later. And just any kind of a chalk type paintbrush. And then, what do you call this thing?
Like a spackle knife or a putty knife.
Yeah, that's important. And then your paint. Do you want to talk about how we mix the paint?
Yes, we actually took 3 colors, a brown, an orange, like a true orange, and a little bit of a barn red to create a terracotta color. And we will reference the color recipes for some different paint brands in the comments of the video.
Actually, on the blog post.
On the blog post.
On the blog post. We're going to link in the comments to the blog post, and you can get the paint recipe there. So first, we are going to take our air dry clay, grab a chunk, work it in your hands. Go ahead, I know you want to say something.
I was just gonna say, this is our most favoriteest ever. We've worked so hard on this formula, you're gonna love it. If you find that it is sticking to your mold at all, there's a couple different things you can do. A foolproof way is to take like either cornstarch or arrowroot, which is our favorite way, as opposed to like anything that has grease in it.
Right.
And just brush a very little bit in the cavity. In fact, you can then invert the mold and tap off any excess. The other way is if you want to take your clay and see how we're working on a drop cloth surface. If I were to take it and roll it just on this surface for a moment, it absorbs
it removes the tack.
It takes a little bit of tack off of it and gives you something that's less likely to stick.
I didn't even know about that last trick. That's a good one. So now I've got it pressed in. I just push it into the mold very simply, and then I want to show you.
Okay,
fine, you can show.
No, I'm just saying.
Go ahead.
Okay, if you insist. Well, first of all, I'm gonna use this spackle knife and I'm gonna press, keeping this at a low angle, I'm gonna press down and pull back, right? And you can do it that way, like see how I'm revealing that edge? But an alternate way is to instead go forward and keep this angle low and just go like this. And the reason why we like doing this so much is when you're pushing and pulling and pressing down, what you're doing is you're getting a little bit of bounce back. And so you have the ever so slightest bit of a convex surface on here. Whereas when you press this way, it's perfectly flat, or when you cut, I should say, it's perfectly flat. And the reason why that's important is then when you go to invert it onto your surface, whoops, I'm gotta be a little more careful than that. if it's the flatter that surface is on the back of this mold, the easier time you're gonna have getting those edges to lay nice and flat here.
Now we are going to take our mold and we are going to adhere it to our plastic container.
Technically it's
crazy,
casting,
right?
Casting.
Or cray-cray. Or
clay.
Technically it's a casting. Okay, a casting. And we're going to glue it right to this area here that shows a gap. And the reason why I chose to put it there is because that is a dead giveaway that this is plastic. So we're going to put a mold there to kind of blend it in and make it look thicker.
Now I have a tongue depressor that is really convenient. My favorite way, which we do not have here, but I'm going to tell you anyways, to work with glue is using the little silicone spatulas for cake decorating because glue, dried glue, just peels right off of them. It's super tidy way to do it. Pretty much
So you just
all
get it
the
on
ways
those
are
edges.
better than using your finger.
I'm going to pull in these that we've already done right here. And we will glue these all the way across.
And the way Sally designed this is she had it go a little bit over top of this lip, right?
Yep.
And then kind of pressed it in to make sure that there's really good contact.
Use plenty of the glue because you really want that to squish into and over and spill out, and then you can just use your finger to kind of wipe it away. And this is a distressed pot. I do see you, I acknowledge you. This is gonna be a distressed pot anyway, so the glue coming out and around is totally okay. Just work with it, you're not gonna see it, but you can also use your finger to just kind of wipe it away if you want.
Yeah.
But it's much better to have too much glue than not enough. Okay, so we've got all of our molds on the seam here to kind of hide the seam that makes it look plastic, and we're going to put a coat of paint. Now, it's already a terracotta color, so you might say, why are you painting it? The reason is I want the texture to be consistent, I want the color to be consistent, and that comes into play later when we add the distressing and the aging onto it. You just slop some on there.
Now, you want to be very careful when you're painting your fresh castings that aren't dry yet.
Oh yes, I'm not going to paint those with this brush.
Right.
I'm actually going to use a chip brush, and you just cannot help yourself.
The nice thing about these brushes is they're nice and firm. So for really working up texture
Yes.
or getting in spots. However, for fresh castings, we use a soft chip brush or something like it.
We'll pull that on out. We are almost ready for it. Oh, okay, I guess she's going to get started. There you go. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Put plenty, be generous with the paint on your chip brush because that helps it just kind of seep into those crevices, and it's really going to make it so you're not having to work it in and ruin your beautiful casting.
Yeah. You'll notice if you've used chip brushes before, the natural bristle ones are even softer for delicate castings.
As I'm painting, I'm going crisscrossy, kind of a crosshatch pattern, so it's not, when I go on later with the distressing and the aging, it's going to pop that texture and you're going to see it more. So I'm a little more intentional about making sure it's random.
I, on the other hand, am being very gentle on our castings so that we don't crush the delicate texture. Okay, so we're going to do a whitewash on here, and I'm going to use about a 50-50, 1 part to 1 part, white paint and water. Now you can always start with a different ratio and increase the water so that you can kind of see how it's working out on your surface.
It's all about the opacity and how much of the color underneath you want to see through. And if you look at the old French pots, you'll notice quite a variation of that. Some of them have more of the white buildup, and then some have more of the terracotta showing through. So it's really just personal preference.
And a lot of it has to do with the paint brand that you're using. Some are thicker than others.
That's true.
That's gonna really be a big variable in your mix. So I want the texture of about heavy cream, I think. Okay. And then you're going to have a shop cloth that you've wet and squeezed all the way out. And you're going to use this to gently blot. So let's go ahead and get started.
I'm excited about this. Ooh.
Now we're not going to go on super solid. We're going to leave little bits here and there. And now we're going to work in sections, and then I'm going to just gently blot, soften your edges a little bit, but even those edges and lines will end up just being
Adding to the texture.
Adding to the texture. Exactly. You're going to be gentle though as you're working, because you've got your castings which are fresh and you've got pretty fresh paint. Right, exactly. Once it has had time to cure, that's different. So we're just softly blotting and it's giving us this beautiful
so pretty.
pottery look. Remember, this is nice and damp. I like the right balance for when I'm doing washes and blotting is that it is all the way saturated and then squeezed all the way out. And it gives you a light, fluffy, but still nice and damp for being able to get some movement on your...
I remember in our European glazing days that we would have to change rags every once in a while, because after a while it starts to get a little bit muddy and a little bit caked up. Oh, that's so pretty.
It's lovely.
Oh, I love it. It's so pretty.
It is. It's beautiful. And then work that down in to here.
Right, because that will show.
So, isn't that awesome?
Do you like it? That's perfect.
Perfect? Okay.
Yes.
So we're going to use this and we're going to do a little drip action.
So this is just a spritzer. We didn't mention this in the supplies, we should have, but a little mister.
Just a mister with a nice fine mist instead of a heavy spray. Now we are going to get a little bit of drip action going on here using this mister bottle with a little bit of water. But we're gonna go light-handed because, like I said, we're working on plastic and this is fresh paint. We wanna make sure that we don't let it sit super long. We just let it sit long enough to kind of reactivate the white, and then, well, I'll show you. So we're going to avoid the casting area and we're just gonna kind of keep it right in this section.
And build up the water.
Build that up, and then we're gonna let that get it vertical so that it runs a little bit. And then we're gonna go back and start lifting. Just let it set for a moment. And then go back in. And you'll see it the misted areas start to lift and look so cool. I wouldn't say it's a little drippy, but it really is more, it's a diffused.
Yeah, I see the drips coming out.
Yeah.
It's like that magic coloring where you color with water and you don't see it until you start.
I'm not gonna lie, it looks awesome.
It looks amazing.
It looks amazing.
And it just adds a different texture.
Yep. Don't you love
I
that?
love it. I'm just gonna get this little piece off.
Okay, don't scratch it. It's
I'm
fresh.
not.
Be gentle. Remember, after it's cured, you're golden. But when you're working on fresh paint, and especially on a
Plastic
surface, exactly,
Right.
you just take care in the beginning, and you'll be good. Now let's add a little bit of moss.
Yes, let's add our moss.
Now, typically, moss grows from the bottom up of a pot. Here,
do you want a different brush?
No, but I want to dip it in water.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna keep a wet brush, dip it in water, and then take a little bit of the green.
Go easy on this.
Go easy on this. And we're just gonna
a wee bit.
kind of go in like this, and then we're gonna go and we're gonna blot it with our this. And it just adds a hint of that moss look to it. You don't really need much. Now you can go heavier if you want, but we're just, for this project, we're just gonna do
touch.
a little bit. And remember, you're wanting to quickly blend it so that you're not letting it sit and reactivate anything and then move your other paint around. So
yeah.
beautiful. Do you
I
love
would
it?
soften it a little bit more, the green. Just a wee bit.
Take your,
Yeah.
if you want to really soften it, you can just gently, just right on the surface
Yeah.
without any pressure.
You're just almost just caressing
yeah, just
the
kind of
surface with
exactly.
the towel. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's better. I like
Okay.
that.
Perfect.
Beautiful. I love it.
And then we'll go ahead and finish the other sides. But
So pretty.
right? Are we right?
We're right. You guys have got to try this. It was so much fun. We got it done in an afternoon, and I can't wait to put it in my kitchen window. It was inexpensive. I bought it off the shelf and I made it my own with IOD.
I love it.
Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this, and if you want those color recipes, click the link to our blog below.
A spring fever, and the only prescription is more IOD.
We're such nerds.
We're gonna get clay.
That end. Can you cut that off? There you go.
I don't want to look psycho.
Crazy lady.
Clay.
We have got all. Sorry, the way you looked at me. Did I scare you? It looked like I scared you.
Stop touching it so
and
much.
stop touching it.
It's gonna.
I say that to Elias like 10 times a day. One more take. One more take.